What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from AlexCFE, and today we're going to check out another deck profile. This time for Standard, we're going to be looking at Zedhlans. Zedhlans is actually a really interesting deck, just very easy, kind of old school, kind of like Kagura Overlord gameplay that just doesn't take a whole lot to play it, but I think that in the right hands, it could be a fairly decent deck overall. It's definitely not a tier 1A meta stomper, but if you are playing it correctly, if you're kind of having the right mindset, I think you can sneak a lot of games off a lot of different people, and like I said, very easy to play overall. So very excited to bring this to you guys. Let's hop right in. Starting off with the rod line, we are going into the grade 0, the in-theme one over here, Smith Apprentice, Zedhlans. Over here too, also you do need the grade 0 in here just because the grade 1 does go off of that. When you are placing it on top, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with wrought iron in its card name from among it, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. Deck thinning is deck winning. This definitely helps us do that. Very, very good card, especially for the early game when you want to start to aggress. I'll show you why. Also, the grade 2 over here, it's nice that they actually made this one a double rare. I know it's been quite a while since we've actually had like that kind of rarity in the regular ride line. When this unit is placed on from running a grade 1 with Zedhlans in its card name, search your deck for up to 1 Smith card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. I like this ride line too because it actually makes it easy to kind of discard that, and you can recur it a little bit later over and over, especially if you have multiple copies of this in your hand. But this is going to be the main Wrought Iron Dragon King Zedhlans. So main boss unit, this is of course what you want to go into every single time and persona ride over and over. When this unit is placed on by riding a Zedhlans grade 2, you get the Soul Blast 1, search your deck or drop for up to 1 card with an order, reveal it, put it in one set order, put it into your hand, and then if you search your deck, you shuffle your deck. So essentially later on into the game, if you know you have persona rides, you can actually ditch some of the wrought iron kind of cards that you are getting off of the ride line, which makes it a little bit easier and helps you actually aggress early. We're going to go into the build and I'll show you what I mean by that. Its second skill, once per turn when this unit attacks, Catalyst 1, this unit gets to drive +1 till the end of turn, and then when your unit was chosen by the ability of your smithy in your order zone, 3 or more times this turn at the end of battle, stand this unit, gets to drive -3, also plus 10k until the end of turn. So the drive -3 is a little unfortunate, but you do get that initial triple drive up front, so it is what it is. If it was just 1 drive, you know, it would feel too much like a regular Overlord, so kind of getting all of your payoff up front. So cool, let's hop into the main deck now and get started. Starting off over here, we have 3 copies of Zedhlans himself. So these are the extra persona rides. Basically, persona ride is a life or death kind of situation almost in this deck. Always want to be persona riding. It's definitely going to help you. Without it, the numbers don't feel really impactful on a lot of the rear guard columns. You're going to see why. This deck has the juice to maybe go the extra mile, but then does it have the power to close out games? That's really going to come down to a lot of trigger checks. Just having that persona ride really helps you. Just like I said, get those numbers, close out the game a little quicker. I think it's no surprise we're running 3 additional persona rides. Over here for our next grade 3, we are going to be running 4 of these cards. This is a new card coming out of Triple Drive as well, and this guy is Wrought Iron Dragon, General Dragon, Fierce Gyre Dragon. So when this unit attacks the Vanguard, if it's chosen by the ability of a smithy in your order zone this turn, until the end of that battle, this guy gets an additional 5k, Soul Blast 2, and then you can choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. Soul Blast 2 retire isn't the absolute best. It's a little expensive to be popping that all the time. You're not going to be able to do that multiple times really per game, but with the build, the way we're doing it, you will be able to get it at least like twice, I want to say. Overall, it's really not too hard. The extra 5k is okay. The nice thing about this, so the smithy order is going to give you 5k. We're going to go over that in just a second next up over here, but that's going to give you 5k. Its own ability gives it 5k. It's a 23k, so at least a 15k to guard on the initial swing, especially if you're riding up, like, you know, if you're going first. Feels good in that instance. Also, if you're persona riding, it's like a 33, which again, these are just like decent numbers overall. And I feel like this it does help us. It's just you have to kind of run these wrought iron pieces in here. I feel like you could kind of replace it with something else down the line maybe, but for now we do have to run 4 of those guys. Getting into like the main order of the deck, I know we've spoken about it multiple times over here. Maybe I should have actually brought this out first, but Wrought Iron Workshop of Burning Flame. So this guy is a set order. It's not a normal order, just a heads up. I actually made the mistake and ran a little bit of a different combo in my deck previously, so I kind of adjusted accordingly there. But act in the order zone. You can only play this if you have a Zedhlans, by the way. Act in the order zone, rest this card, choose one of your units, and it gets 5k until the end of turn. If you chose a unit with Wrought Iron in its card name until the end of your opponent's next turn, that unit gets intercept and 5k shield. So it can make your grade 3 turn into that, can make some of your grade 2s, other units also. Just a little bit more shield, helping you insulate. And this is what I mean by having that like classic Overlord. When Overlord first came out in what was it, Standard, it just felt like a bulky deck that you kind of just grinded through, grindy. This kind of encompasses that again. So if you liked that gameplay, if you like that playstyle, it might not be the best in the current meta, but maybe one day it will shine. This is kind of the deck and the piece that kind of enables us to do that. So running that at 4 of, absolutely need to, even though it is searchable, you will need it every single time. And again, you need 3 of those to go off. So this is a turn 4 deck to get that restand on your Vanguard off. So a little unfortunate in that regard. I think if other units can do a multi-attack, a big multi-attack like Youth Work and whatnot, we're just waiting for that one support piece that they're going to print to basically let us do it. But getting into the grade 2s, and right before we do that, I do want to mention that if you are interested in purchasing any of the cards that you see here today, do have a TCG player link, absolutely no cost to you. You can shop that link down in the description below to help support the channel. I really do appreciate it. I'll never ask you guys for money, subscriptions, donations, anything like that. So by going through that link, you really do help me. I do appreciate it. If you are enjoying the content, make sure you leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. And with all that good stuff out of the way, let's continue on. So, oh man, these names are so crazy. Wrought Iron, Soldier Dragon, Lightning Surge Dragon. So this guy can auto on rearguard circle when this unit is chosen by the ability of your order zone. Set order in your order zone this turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Zedhlans in its card name, until the end of turn, your opponent cannot choose this. It's just basically can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects, which is actually really nice, persistent on the board. Helps you also just like when that 5k is given from this, it's not like they can just retire and that's like negated. So that's pretty good in that regard. When this unit attacks, if this unit is chosen by the ability of the Smithy in your order zone, you can CB1, draw a card. And again, just the card draw in this deck is pretty good. Like I said, you have the ability to kind of go the extra mile. What you don't have is really the closeout power. So this guy doesn't give himself power. That's the biggest thing. But the CB1 to draw is pretty good. I don't know. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, because this guy, the wrought iron will give it 5k, but you have to dedicate it to there. So kind of like a good and bad card in a lot of different ways, but that is definitely one of the best grade 2s we have. We're also running Brachiosaurus over here, and this is part of the strategy. So the idea, let me just talk about it before we get into like Brachio itself. You probably know what that is. This is, by the way, just a different art. The promo art, same card. If you're newer to the game, don't recognize that difference. So you really do want to be aggressing early in this deck, like absolutely almost every matchup. I know it's tough to give counterblast to some decks, but this on top of Brachio, on top of another card we're going to go over, it just puts a lot of on-hit pressure onto your opponent. And then later on into the game, like basically you want to kind of farm early by using these grade 2 cards over here to get you to at least your second grade 3 turn, because you do close out on the second grade 3 turn. Like that restand is what this deck is all about. If you don't like absolutely rip 1,000 triggers off like the first triple drive that you're doing, it could be a little bit tough, and I feel like just a triple drive isn't enough to cut it anymore. There's more defensive options in the game. Other decks are a little bit more mature overall, and they can kind of clap back from that, so you're not typically going to close out on your first grade 3 ride. This will kind of get you through the long game. This will thin their hand a little bit as well. So don't be disappointed if you notice Brachio is not hitting, you're not getting it all the time. This is really to thin your opponent's hand and get your resources in the end, if you do, end up hitting. Next up too, again, I've mentioned the defensive options. This is actually a really good one, and I feel like it does come up in this deck, which is pretty nice, because you do have an extra 5k from the Smith order. On top of this is Defensing Roar. Choose one of your Guardians without Sentinel, and until the end of the battle, that unit gets auto when this unit is retired from Guardian Circle. Put this unit into your hand, and it gets 10k too. So it can be a 10k shield intercepting on top of a 10k here, 20k just off of one card is pretty good. On top of that, you get it back to hand, which is kind of nice. Maybe you'll use it for next turn, whatever the case may be. I feel like this is a solid choice in the deck right now, so I'm running that at 2 of. Next up here too, just getting into the grade 1s, getting this stuff out of the way. One Elementaria, this is just the proxy for it right there. I have a million of them spread out through all these different decks. I forgot to put it in here, but we have 3 of the PGs as well. Just, the regular effect PGs, nothing really more to say. Just need to run that. It is standard, is what it is. One of these guys, this is the Red Jewel Beast. How do you say it? Galnet? I think it's a Guynet or Galnet. I forget. I don't know if that's an I or an L, but really easy because you are soul blasting a whole bunch in this deck, so you will typically have those things in the drop. You don't recur them, they don't multi-attack that way or anything like that, so it's pretty costless to go and get this and give that extra 15k shield. So I like this at 1 of. You can even arguably run it at 2 because you are soul blasting like a whole bunch. At a certain point, you're just going to have all your ride line in the drop, and it won't really be too bad. You can do the card draw. The next one over here, I'm going to show these 2 cards almost together. I'm running 2 of the new promo and then 2 of these. I would run 4 of the new promo. I've just split it between, I have like, I think I have like 8, and I just wanted to split 2, and these other decks, I wanted to put 4 in Shiranui, so I'm doing this over here. This is basically a budget option for it. This is Stealth Fiend Shenri. Obviously, this is the new triple drive booster. This is the box promo. They're not like too expensive. I might get some more, but this guy's skill, when it boosts, if your opponent has 1 or less rear guard or you played an order this turn, this guy gets an extra 5k until the end of battle. And at the end of battle, put this unit into your soul, draw a card, 15k, fueling our soul, drawing a card. On top of that, just, you know, vacating. So sure, you can't like dominate it the same way. It has to be in the drop, and you do Soul Blast a whole lot in this deck. This is such a good card for this deck. If you don't want to purchase this, if you want to make this a little bit more budget, you know, keep it lower, this is an option as well. Dreadgritter mid-hat, although this is, I think, almost with Vanguard coming out, the same price. This might actually be around the same cost, so I might be misspeaking here, but I just had, you know, 2 of these laying around. But when your unit stands by your card's ability, you get to retire this unit and then draw a card. Basically, this is a turn 4 card. This is a more, but like, it's kind of worse in almost every way from this card right here. You're typically going to be playing an order card that's going to be seeing that 5k, even on your earlier turns. This puts a ton of pressure on. This plus Brachio is like insane value early game, and really that's what we need. We need a great early game to kind of compete with some of these higher tier decks, and this is the card that kind of gets us there. This is just good for later game, you know, it is what it is kind of deal. If you have 4, run 4. If not, try these out, you know, could be a decent sub also. Lastly, over here for the main deck, we are running 4 of the Wrought Iron Knight Radid. Radid's actually really decent in this deck. When this unit boosts a unit chosen by the ability of the Smithy order during your turn, order zone this turn, you may soul charge 1. So again, we run through a lot of soul in this deck between all the Soul Blast costs. This is good for that. On top of that, at the end of battle, this unit boosted. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Zedhlans in its card name, and you did not countercharge this turn, you can retire this unit and countercharge 1, because typically, let's review it over here. Zedhlans himself, like the main boss unit, uses a counterblast, and also you want to be using this counterblast at least once per turn, every single turn. I mean, if you have 2 of these units, you're counterblasting twice, like sure, go for it if you have the resources. This guy kind of enables us to do it. That kind of stuff will keep you in the game long term. So I feel like almost every Dragon Empire deck needs like a solid countercharger, and that is ours. It's really nice that it has the Wrought Iron name, to be honest. Cool, let's pan out and get into the triggers now. Alright, starting off with the heals over here, I really will say this is up to your meta, what you think. It's a complete meta call right now, either the one that does the multi-attack like this, or the one that does the extra crit. One of those two. The 10k one, the extra one that does, like, you know, if your opponent's grade is higher than yours, that's okay too. Like, any of those are really fine. I just personally, I don't like Shiranui, so I'm going to run this to kind of counter that. If you fear Luard and that extra crit, maybe, you can put in the crit one. If you want, let's say, you know, if you know Greedon is in your meta, you know, it's a meta call. Like, do you want to do the restanding one, or do you want to do the crit one? But 4 heals, obviously, right there. We are running, I think it is, yeah, 8 crit over here. I just, you know, I have some funny crits in here. This was, you know, kind of a pet project deck, so I didn't use all of my flail dragons in there. I guess I would put the flail dragons if you have them. If not, you know, big deal. It doesn't really impact too much of the game. I think I'm settled on draws in this deck, even though the fronts feel really good. I'm just trying both right now, doing like a 2-1 split. Do whatever you feel is correct. This is a little bit more aggressive, but this will get us into the late game. I think you can probably get away with the fronts, in all honesty, but again, I just want to kind of guarantee my pieces, see my pieces a little bit later, because once you start searching out cards like from the rad line, like there's no other really like replenish and like, you know, just call units kind of skill that Zedhlans has. Like, you have to manually call them down, so that's where your, like, I guess, hand and your resources kind of dwindle and get a little, like, you know, thin or sparse in that regard. Even though you do have a decent amount of card draw, you kind of need it in this deck, so that extra draw does help. Just proxying over here, I would honestly run not the Dragon Empire OT, but the Red Cray Elemental. That one, we don't have multi-attack really in this deck. That once you add that into this, I feel like once you hit that, like, I've hit it once or twice, like when I'm playtesting a bunch of different games, and it's like, that kind of felt like the missing piece. Once I feel like they're going to give us a support thing that gives us like a 4th attack or 5th attack, so to speak, on this. Once you have that outside of the Vanguard, once that predictability kind of goes away and the variance that red one brings you comes to be, I feel like it becomes a lot better, a lot more complete kind of deck. So let me know what you guys think. I think once we get in order, or some kind of support card, I mean, that allows us to put 3 orders by our grade 3 turn, I think that's going to elevate this deck to a little bit better. It is a very easy deck to play. It's kind of plays itself. You aggress early, you just kind of take your time, you know, triple drive, gain your resources, and try to close out as soon as you can from your 4th turn onwards, or your, you know, turn 4 kind of thing onwards. So let me know what you guys think. Are you enjoying this deck? Are you building this any different? I want to know your lists. Let me know down below. And again, if you are enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you in advance. This is Alex from Alex CFE signing out.